welcome you all to this very brilliant autobiographical narrative by Khushwant Singh. The name of the narrative is The Portrait of a Lady. This is the second video. In the first video, we studied the first two paragraphs in which we found an introduction to the lady whose portrait the author is drawing here with the help of his pen. And in those two paragraphs, we found an introduction where we found the nature, the behavior and the characteristics of the personality of that wonderful woman. In the coming paragraphs, we will see three phases of the author's relationship with his grandmother. That is a very important point. A question often comes about the different phases of the author's relationship with his grandmother. You will find three phases. The relationship that the author shared with his grandmother can be divided into three phases. This we will find here. And also you will know how religious she is. That is a very important point so far as this lesson is concerned. The author's grandmother was a very pious and religious woman. How do we know this? This we will find here. Earlier also we have got some idea about it. So let us start the third paragraph. My grandmother and I were good friends. My grandmother and I were good friends. My parents left me with her when they went to live in the city, and we were constantly together. She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. This is how their relationship was. The author's parents went to the city, perhaps it was for the sake of his father's job, and the author was left alone at home in the company of his grandmother only. So only the grandmother and the grandson, these two persons were staying in their native home, and the woman, the grandmother, took a lot of care of the child. How did she do it? She used to wake me up in the morning. Every morning the grandmother would wake him up, beta utho jago, get ready for school. She would make him ready for school, and since she was a religious woman, she was a pious woman, she wanted that her grandson should also be pious, he should also be in love with God, and he should also be religious. That's why she said her morning prayer in a monotonous sing-song while she bathed and dressed me in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. What did the woman do? While she would bathe the child, the author, for making him ready for school, during that time she would make her prayer. And while using this sentence, the author said, she said her morning prayer. Yes, the word say we often use for prayer. I have said my prayer. I am going to say my prayer. That is how you can say. The author said about his grandmother, she said her morning prayer in a monotonous sing-song. What is this monotonous sing-song? Monotonous means something that is not attractive, something that is a routine affair where there is nothing new, no attraction is there. And sing-song means like a song. She would make her prayer in a melodious, in a lyrical way, so that the prayer becomes attractive and the grandson listens to it, he loves it, and he also practices it. With this intention she would do it. But the author said that I listened because I loved her voice, but never bothered to learn it. The author said, no, I never bothered to learn it. So here her intention failed because she wanted me to learn it. That's why she would she would utter those prayers in a musical way, in a rhythmic way, in a lyrical way, while making me ready for school, while bathing me. I never bothered to learn it, but I listened, of course. Why did I listen? I listened because I loved her voice. See also how this woman took care of the author. Then she would fetch my wooden slate. The author had a slate which was made of wood, which she had already washed. This grandmother, she already had washed the author's slate, which was made of wood, and then she plastered with yellow chalk. She plastered it with yellow chalk. She made it yellow color with chalk, which she had, and a tiny earthen ink pot. The author also had a tiny means very small, earthen ink pot. Tiny means very small. The author has an ink pot. Nowadays you don't know what is ink pot. Ink pot is a pot where ink used to be stored. When we were children, we had this thing, and at that time we had a pen called fountain pen. Nowadays you purchase a pen at the cost of 10 or 20 rupees. Once it is finished, you just throw it away, you buy a new one. In our times, an ink pot is there that contains ink. You have a pen called fountain pen, and you put some ink, you pour some ink from the ink pot to your pen. There is the pen had its belly. Inside the belly you pour some ink. When it is finished, you pour some more ink from the ink pot. So the author had a small ink pot, a tiny earthen ink pot. Earthen, it is an adjective. Earthen, it means made of earth. Its noun is earth. Earth is noun, earthen is adjective. It means the ink pot was made of soil, it was made of mud, it was small in size, and a red pen also he had. The author's grandmother would take all these things together, slate, ink pot, pen, and she would then hand them over to the author who would go to school. After a breakfast of a thick stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it, we went to school. We went to school. It means along with the author, the small child, even her grandmother also went with him to the school. After a breakfast, what was the breakfast made up of? What did they take in breakfast? This may be a question. In the breakfast, they would take chapati. What is chapati? Very thin roti. And a thick stale chapati. Thick chapati or roti, if it is thin, it tastes better. But this elderly woman, she was doing this job. She was not supposed to do it. So at her age, she is already burdened with her old age. She is still she is preparing food for herself, for her grandson. So she is not expected to be very good in these things at this age. So the roti, the chapati that she would make was very thick, and it was stale also. Stale means something which is not fresh. Stale means not fresh. If you consume thing, if you eat something after it is cooked, after it is prepared, immediately it's fresh. If you take the same thing after 6 hours, after 10 hours, after the next day, then it is no more that fresh. So it is stale. So in breakfast they would take thick and stale chapati and some butter and sugar spread over it. And after that they both went to school. She carried several stale chapatis with her for the village dogs. This is an example how the author's grandmother loved all living beings. She not only loved and took care of her grandson, she loved and took care of the animals, the dogs also. That's why while going to school, she would carry some stale chapatis with her that she would feed the dogs with. My grandmother always went to school with me because the school was attached to the temple. Another point that you should remember, that his grandmother was a religious woman, and she would go along with the author to school because the school was attached to a temple. There was a temple close to the school. The priest taught us the alphabet and the morning prayer. The priest in the temple would teach the children alphabet, the letters. Also he would teach them morning prayer. While the children sat in rows on either side of the veranda singing the alphabet or the prayer in a chorus, my grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. While the children sat in rows, R-O-W-S, rows, this is one row, R-A-W is another row. R-A-W row means something which is not refined or something which is not cooked. Raw vegetables, it means vegetables which you have not cooked, radish or some other plants that we take raw, it means we take without cooking, that is called raw. Raw also means something which is not refined. ROW row means line. So small children in the school, they would sit in two lines in the veranda, and they would be practicing the letters. They would be practicing the morning prayer, and at that time the author's grandmother would be inside and she would be reading scriptures. What is scriptures? Scriptures means religious books. Since they were sick by religion, she must have studied Guru Granth Sahib, that we can guess. When we had both finished, we would walk back together. This time the village dogs would meet us at the temple door. They followed us to our home, growling and fighting with each other for the chapatis we threw to them. As they would leave the school and the temple compound, they would start their return journey to home. The dogs would meet them at the gate of the temple, because the dogs knew that this woman was carrying chapatis for them. The author and his grandmother would throw chapatis to the dogs. The dog would be fighting and growling at each other to get the pieces of chapati. And till the author and his grandmother would reach their home, they would find the dogs fighting and growling at each other for getting the pieces of chapati thrown to them. That is how their days would be spent during his childhood days. Then what happened? When my parents were comfortably settled in the city, they sent for us. So earlier the author parents went to the city, and that's why the author was made to stay in the company of his grandmother only in their native place. Now his parents have got settled. They are now very comfortable in their new life in the city, and now they sent for them. What is this send for? Send for means to send information to someone to come. The author's parents sent information to them that you also come to the city, let us all be together. So the grandmother and the grandson, they also went to the city. That was the turning point in our relationship. This is the end of the first phase of relationship. The first phase of relationship was when they were in the native place in the village. The author would go to school, the grandmother would accompany him, and she would feed the dogs on the way. She would read scriptures when the children would learn their lessons. That was the first phase of the author's relationship with his grandmother. Now, when they went to the city, the author said there was a turning point. What is this turning point? Turning point means a big change took place in our relationship. What was it? Although we shared the same room, they stayed in the same room in the city also, my grandmother no longer came to school with me. Yes, all these days in the native place, she would go with the child to the school. That has come to an end now. She no longer goes with the author to the school. Why? I used to go to an English school in a motor bus. Now it is a city. School is English medium school. There is bus service. So the author, the small child, he goes to school in a bus. Grandmother has no chance to accompany him. There were no dogs in the streets. Another bad news for the grandmother. She was fond of feeding the dogs. Now here there is no dog on the street. What would she do? Her old habit of feeding other animals, she is still continuing. How? She took to feeding sparrows. Take to means to start something. She took to feeding sparrows. When she found no dog on the street whom she could feed, she now started feeding the sparrows. Where were the sparrows? Sparrows were in the courtyard of our city house. The house in the city where they were staying, there was a courtyard, there was an open space in front of it. There sparrows would come, and the author's grandmother started feeding the sparrows instead of the dogs that she would feed earlier in her village. So that is a change, a big change took place here. The author's grandmother cannot feed the dogs on the street. She does not accompany him to school. More changes are there. As the years rolled by, we saw less of each other. They were staying in the same room, but the relationship was less intimate now. As the years rolled by, it means as the years passed, what happened is that we saw less of each other. For some time, she continued to wake me up and get me ready for school. Yes, for a few days initially, she, like her earlier habit, she would wake me in the morning. She would make me ready for school. Later what happened? When I came back, she would ask me what the teacher had taught me. Out of curiosity, the old woman would ask the grandson, what have you learned in your new school? What are the topics? What are the lessons your teachers teach you? I would tell her English words and the little things of Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. The child would tell his grandmother, these are the things we learned in school. What are those things? This is the English medium school. We learn English words. We are taught Western science. We are taught law of gravity, Archimedes' principle. We are also taught that the world is round. This made her unhappy. Why? Because the grandmother was an elderly woman. She had her elderly belief, her traditional belief. She was very religious, and she found all these things against her religious spirit. She could not help me with my lessons. Another reason. Earlier in the primary school in the village, those things were very primary things, basic things the grandmother could teach. She could help the grandson to learn those things. Now it's an English medium school in a town. Science is there, many other things are there, and grandmother has nothing to do with this kind of learning. She cannot help her grandson. She could not help me with my lessons. She did not believe in the things they taught at the English school, and was distressed. Distressed means unhappy. She was sad that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. This grandmother she did not believe the things that were taught in English medium schools. And she was very unhappy to know that in this school there is no teaching about God, there is no teaching about religious books. These things made her unhappy. One day I announced that we were being given music lessons. She was very disturbed. One day the author told his grandmother that in school we are taught music. This made his grandmother very unhappy. She was very disturbed. To her means in her view, according to her, music had lewd associations. L-E-W-D. Lewd means vulgar. She was an elderly woman. In her view, music is something vulgar. It is something unethical. It is something immoral, something not decent. To her, music had lewd associations. It was the monopoly of harlots and beggars and not meant for gentlefolk. Music is the monopoly. What is monopoly? Monopoly means when someone does a thing which no one else is able to do. For example, in a market there is only one shop selling one particular thing. No other shop has this thing in their stock. So this shopkeeper will take any price because his shop is the only shop having this kind of items. He is doing a monopoly business. Monopoly means when someone does a thing which no one else can do. Music, in the view of the author's grandmother, music was the monopoly. It was the activity done by only two types of persons. Who are these two types of persons? Harlots. What is this harlot? Harlot does not mean a good thing. Harlot means prostitutes. Prostitutes. Who are these people? These are women. Prostitutes are the women who are engaged in immoral activities. They do things, sexually abusive things they do, and they get money out of it. They are called prostitutes or harlots. The author's grandmother's view is that music is the activity that is done by the beggars and the prostitutes. It is not a gentleman's activity. It is not the activity to be done by refined people. It is not good people's activity. That is what her view was. She said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. When she came to know this thing, she was very sad that my grandson, whom I have taken so much care of, whom I loved so much, whom I accompanied to school all these days, and while bathing and dressing him, I would sing religious songs so that she learns it. My own grandson, a part of my heart, he is now learning music, which is not an activity of good people, which is an activity of the beggars and prostitutes. Such rough things, such vulgar things are taught to my grandson. This is actually happens when there is a gap. This is called generation gap. The elderly people, they have their own thought, and the new generation people, they are sending their children to English medium schools. So there is a generation gap. The elderly woman is very unhappy knowing this thing, that my own grandson is taught these wrong things, these foul things, these vulgar things. She is very sad, and she said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. When she said nothing, I could guess it, I could realize it, that it meant that she disapproved it. She did not like it. She was very unhappy with it. She rarely talked to me after that. So that was the second phase of their relationship. First phase of their relationship between the grandmother and the grandson was when they were in the village school, in the village home they were living. Second phase was they went to the city, and the author would go to school, English medium school, and they lived in the same room. Still their intimacy was very less because of the things taught in the school, because the grandmother could not accompany him to school. Because of these reasons, there was a gap between them. And in the coming video, we will study the next paragraphs where we will find the third phase in their relationship, and then we will find many more things. The author will tell us these things in a very realistic way, in a very attractive way. I am sure you will love it, and you will get a lot of things to learn from this. With this hope, we are ending this video. We will soon meet in the next video, the third one. Thank you very much.